Ready? So with that, I'd like to call this meeting to order of Library Commission special meeting. And Anthony, can we establish quorum, please?
Yes, Chair Bedard,
Here.
Vice Chair Morris.
Yeah.
Yes. Commissioner Fawcett,
Yeah.
you have a quorum.
Thank you. So the first thing we have on the agenda and only thing is items, is discuss and provide feedback on main library improvement design concepts with ABA. Before ABA presents, Anthony, do you want to discuss your report summary, or should we go straight into the presentation?
Yeah, I can give a short presentation or lead up to ABA. As you can see in the report, we've already conducted one round of feedback engagement. It was in this room. We started in March with a library commission meeting, and then we conducted 2 engagement sessions outside or in this room, actually. And ABA then met with city staff and library staff to get feedback from the staff perspective on this project. So they've incorporated staff perspective, the community perspective, and the feedback from the library commission. And before you are 2 design concepts that I won't go into too much. I'll let ABA really set that up. But these are design concepts that are meant to come back to the community for feedback that will then return eventually to the library commission. So this is not, for everyone's knowledge, this is not the last time this will be coming before the library commission. This is part of the process of engagement where we want to get feedback as to ways that we can make adjustments. And then obviously we'll be doing a couple other community engagement events. This Saturday from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. we are going to be in the main library open space. So we're going to try and be in the way a little bit in the library so we can get more feedback from individuals who maybe we didn't get feedback from before. And especially now that we have design concepts. And then next Wednesday, May 28th from 3 to 5 p.m. On Saturday, there may be some sugary treats if you come. If you came to the first round, you'll probably see the same one. So please come to those feedback sessions. That's for the public as well as library commission. And with that, I want to pass it over to ABA, who's going to give the presentation.
Fantastic. Thank you, Anthony. Good evening, members of the commission. We're excited to be here and continue this discussion with you all and of course with the public, the community. So we are going to do a brief presentation this evening. And as Anthony teed up for us, this is one step in the process. And what you're going to see tonight are drafts. Nothing about this is finished. So I'll go ahead and get us started, Amy, if you don't mind advancing. Thank you. Just a quick sound check. Am I audible? Okay. Louder for Carol. Okay. I will try to amp up the volume. So we have 6 components to this evening's presentation. You can see on the screen what those are. And really, we're going to spend the bulk of our time together going through item 5. But what led to item 5 is really important. And that's what Anthony just discussed, which is all of the outreach that we have done to date informed where we are. So we want to do a brief recap of that outreach, because ultimately it all has to tie together. What we hear to what we draw to what is realized needs to be all connected. So I'm going to go straight into it. We're going to start with a quick recap of the existing conditions. So go ahead, Amy. Before I do that, actually, I would like to, especially for commission members, kind of clarify. I always like to really think about why are we here and what are we looking to hear back and get input on. So this is just a very quick summary of that. And I think you're all aware, and I know that you've had a chance to look at this a little bit beforehand. So really, as I mentioned, it's just an update on the input that we've received to date. And then also be able to share the design concepts, the draft designs that we have developed. And then really look at the next steps with you all so everybody has clarity on what the next steps in the process are going to be. So we'd love to have, at the end of all this, we'd love to have observations and discussions on the community input received. We certainly want feedback on the design options, the draft options. That's very important for us. And then a clear understanding of those next steps as an outcome. So I want to outline that very quickly. This should look familiar. This is our process map. This is just a roadmap of all the steps in the process. This roadmap allows us to communicate and know how we're going from the beginning all the way to the end. And what you'll notice on this slide is there is a little orange rounded corner box that says we are here. So ultimately, what you can see is that we are in the conceptual design phase right now. And we are at a moment of getting feedback on these initial conceptual ideas. That's ultimately where we are in the process. Thanks, Amy. Next slide. This is another way to look at where we are. This diagram illustrates where we are in the engagement process, because within the overall process, there's a lot of work that takes place. But one of the important parts of that is interacting with the community. This shows what Anthony just described, which is we've met with city and library staff. We've had 3 interactions with the community. And at this point, we are now going to start our next round of interaction, which is, again, having a response to these draft ideas that we developed from the first round. So hopefully that makes some sense. And then we will go back to staff and get more input. And then we'll come back again to the commission for their input. So a lot of steps still ahead of us, but we're excited about where we are in this moment. Next slide.
When you're coming back to the commission? Sorry.
Sure. So if you look at this slide, what you'll see is 3 bubbles on the right-hand side in yellow. The upper bubble is commission meeting that has been flagged as of now, which could be shifted a little bit, but that's what we've targeted.
Thank you.
One thing I wanted to mention, and I'll make this brief, is it's important to start with what we have. This library has great elements about it, and we need to understand this space really well. So one of the things that we do from the get-go is what we call an existing conditions analysis. This is a way for us to get really familiar with what is here. We start with what's here. And this has been completed into a draft report. And this report is going to be shared. Ultimately, it breaks down all of our findings about the existing space. Everything from accessibility compliance down to level of finishes, how the mechanical systems perform, all of these things, because what we want to do as part of these improvements is not only come up with a great design concept, but refresh the entire library so that we have systems that perform well. We have accessibility compliance. These are all very important things to a successful design. So this, provides the foundation for that. So that's really what this is about. We'll jump to the next slide. I'm going to transition quickly to outreach findings. So we talked about the different moments that we've had together for outreach. They're listed here again. And the next slide will show you a brief snapshot of who we heard from, who came to these moments. So this is just a quick summary of the demographics of who came to those interactions with us for those 3 initial meetings. So we like to look at this because it's important to understand who we're hearing from. It's not always that we get a full representation of the community and the users of the library. So we want to be looking at who we've heard from. We want to be looking at who are library users and make sure there's some alignment. So if we need to adjust and make any adjustments to our outreach, we can look at that. So this is just a way to help illustrate that.
So I have 2 questions.
Sure.
Oh, no.
We should wait.
Oh, we should wait. Okay. No, it's okay.
Yeah, feel free, Michelle, jot your questions down.
Yes, I will.
So this is a summary slide of key findings of who we heard from kind of in these larger groupings. So you can see we had excellent participation by Friends of the Library and of course staff as well. And we had a fair amount of families with children that did participate. And I think we had probably a higher turnout during the weekend session for that. And then we had a large percentage of the demographic that is older, right? Which is part of what we're seeing in the chart. So we have to just be able to look at that and understand who to hear from. So this is just quickly giving you a snapshot. These next two slides are, again, a summary of what we heard. I want to be really clear that these two slides do not represent everything that we heard. There's a lot of information. But what we attempt to do is take it and distill it and summarize some of the main points we've heard repeatedly. So what you'll see here is you'll see the colored boxes, and the colored boxes are kind of our takeaway of what we heard. And then you'll see the quotation boxes where we actually have taken certain things that have been said by the community and put it there as context that you can see how we arrived at our takeaway. So this is really important because this is what has formed the foundation of our thinking for priorities for design solutions, draft design. So the next slide, Amy, if you don't mind, thank you very much, continues that. And you can see here continued themes around various things, family restrooms, for example, meeting rooms, addressing the inadequate power concerns within the library. And then off to the side, we've listed things that we did hear that are not currently, have not been identified within the scope of the work that was outlined for this particular project. It's important to document it, but right now we wanted to capture it off to the side because at this point in time, this scope of work, as most of you are aware, is for the interior of the library. This is for a renovation and a refresh of the library. So parking, for example, would not be something that we're looking at within this study. All right, so the next two slides. There's a lot of words on these slides, but what I want to communicate here is that this first slide that you're seeing here shows you the initial proposals that we had were done early on. If you recall, in our first meeting together, there was a lot of feedback that said, these are great, but some of these things aren't relevant anymore. Things have changed. So we need to make sure we're validating the previous ideas.
Too small.
We have a hard copy if you'd like a hard copy.
Yes.
Do you like that?
Also on the, if you're on your phone, it's also on the city website.
Thank you. So again, this should look familiar, and I realize it's a small slide with a lot of text, but this is the original proposals that we had on the table. Our team, through the input we received from the community and the input, has looked at all of these things and said, what is still relevant? What is still relevant based on what we initially had heard? And what maybe needs to be either taken off the list or reconsidered? So the next slide is what we created to be able to show that outcome. So here, you'll notice it's the same list, but it's been reordered. And this list now says tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So what you'll see is at the top of this list, there are things noted that are still relevant in the original proposals, and they're considered a higher priority. And that's, again, based on what we heard in our outreach, in our engagement. So as you go down this list, you'll see essentially what things remain important and need to be emphasized, what things remain the same and are still relevant, but maybe don't have a lot of change associated with it. And there's some that are still relevant, but they need some reevaluation a little bit or modification. So as we go through the design concepts, the draft designs, you're going to see that all of these things are things we're trying to address in our solutions. And we're trying to do it in a way that really respects the process of being, from the original proposals to these revised and then to the design. So that is a brief recap of that section, and we'll jump to the next. We're now going to talk about how all this gets us to space needs. So we have all this input. We validated the proposals, the original ideas. How do we now take this and create revised space that's going to function well in these designs? So that's what this is about. And you're going to see a lot more tonight after these next couple of slides that really gets into the meat of that. But I think the important premise to state is that everything we do is what I would call, or we would call a reallocation. We're working within a certain envelope. This is a renovation. So imagine you're a 10-pound sack of potatoes. And you know that bag can hold 10 pounds of potatoes. But maybe there's a different way to arrange those potatoes to have it be a little more tightly packed and efficient and still function as well as potatoes can, still function well. So essentially this diagram and these points, that's all this is saying. It's a reminder to all of us, and designers included on our team, that we really have to consider the fact that some spaces are going to reduce, maybe, and some spaces are going to enlarge. In some spaces, maybe we could consider the factor of efficiency. Maybe things are not functioning as efficiently as they could be, and we can look at ways to improve that in our design. So I'm going to hand it off here to Amy in just a second, because this is where I think everybody really wants to be able to focus this evening. I will quickly mention this phrase. It's on the slide. It's an important one for us, and it's important to explain it. I want to briefly do that. We have done a lot of studies to get to this point. I want to clarify again that what you're going to see in terms of draft designs are not finished. However, we believe and we feel like one of our big strategies is that we're going to make smart, efficient moves to have a big impact. We don't have to restructure the entire organization of the library to make it work. We have to think strategically about how we do that. But the other part of this, on top of that, is the refresh. And I mentioned this earlier. This is the part that when you look at what we're going to show tonight, is kind of hidden, veiled behind. It's all the new power, all the new audio, all the new lighting, all the new mechanical things that are going to improve how this space functions, the new acoustical treatment. These are the things that we're calling a new refresh. And this has to be done holistically throughout the life. It's not just in the parts that we're helping in. That makes sense. So that is really important to our overall statement of design and where we're going. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Amy Crawford. Amy is a lead designer at ABA. She brings a lot of library experience coupled with the rest of our team, who also has quite a bit of library experience. And she's very excited to share some of these ideas with you all tonight.
Hi, everybody. I will add one thing. Oh,
I'm going to transition.
sorry, moving the mic. Okay, Carol, can you hear me? Is that good? Okay. I will add to what Jason said about the refresh. He talked about all of the stuff that's hidden in the walls, things that are getting air to you, things that are getting electricity to you for your devices. We're also looking at refreshing finishes. So this carpet in this room would be refreshed. We're not changing this room. We're not changing the function of this room, but we're looking to change the finishes where they can use refreshment. So that's just something I would add to what Jason just said. So all of that outreach that we did, all of that information that we learned from the community, from the staff, from you all, we showed you before the bubbles. We've sort of transitioned that into these circles. As we move forward, you will see these circles repeated in the floor plans as we look at them. So the things that we're trying to address with these design challenges, better accommodating both active spaces and quiet spaces. So active meaning noisy, loud, people having conversations, kids getting into the story time room or the children's area, and then people that want to sit quietly with their magazine, their newspaper, or do their homework. We want to accommodate uses for both of those groups of people. We want to improve access for charging your personal technology, provide extended hours access, provide family bathrooms at the children's area, create some efficiencies with staff spaces, create flexibility where we can, improve accommodations for small group gatherings. So that's, you want to meet with your knitting group, you want to have a chit chat, and there's a space for you to do that that's not back in the quiet space where people are trying to focus. Improve the Friends of the Library work and sales spaces, provide acoustically quiet private meeting spaces. And one that we added, because it's something that we like to consider in all of the project work that we do, is look at inclusive design. That goes above and beyond accessible design. It starts to look at all kinds of people and how they might need to use a space. So that is something that will come a little bit further down the road. That's something that we will be looking at. So the next page is our first set of plans. This is what we're calling design concept 1. And there is this page on the next one where it gets bigger and you can see it a little bit better, but this has a lot of extra information on it. So just hold tight if you want to be able to look at this a little bit closer. So key elements of this plan. We are looking at adding a glass dividing wall here in this plan, in this option 1, that creates this marketplace, this after hours space, this active space. This wall that we are proposing here gives us a lot of bang for our buck. It does a lot of these things that we are trying to answer from those bubbles that we just saw on the last slide. It gives us expanded marketplace. So that's this area we're calling here. This is the marketplace. This is sort of long linear shape that connects to the lobby down here. The Friends of the Library workspace and sales space are now immediately adjacent to each other right here at the front of the library. They have access potentially from 2 sides. They're right here next to their sales space and to the cafe. In this instance, we are reconfiguring the restrooms to be an all-gender restroom where, you know, there's a number of stalls that are required, but it allows us to do that adjustment where we put Friends of the Library up here, and it allows us to add 2 family restrooms that are accessible from the children's area. We'll note really quick, this gray box is the children's area. There's a note here that says children's area not in the scope of work. We are not touching the finishes, the shelving, any of that, because there is a concurrent project that is happening in that space. So it is not part of our scope of work currently.
I will add, sorry, that while it's not a part of our scope to modify that, we are looking at how we best tie into it and integrate, because in the case of the family restrooms, for example, we need to consider how those are accessed given the new layout of the space.
Yeah. So. In this particular example, we are looking at a model where meeting spaces, those quiet meeting spaces for people, are distributed in clusters throughout the quiet part of the library. So you've got a small cluster here. You could call this a phone room. You could call it a small meeting room. It's maybe max 3 people, 2 to 3 people could be in there. We have another meeting room here that's currently existing, a couple over here next to the windows, and then a couple back here that are meant to be for bigger groups to gather. There are, in this option, there are no major changes to the large metal, the primary library shelving. That was something that was important that we heard during outreach was, please don't take away our books. We're able to achieve everything that you're seeing here without making major changes to the shelving. We also heard a lot about, make sure we maintain the view to the orchard. So we are showing seating primarily in this area so you can maintain those views. Seating at desks or seating at chairs or like lounge chairs. The staff workspace is configured to be in one location. The staff workspace itself, we have not gone to that level of detail yet. So this is still kind of a blank slate, but we have been able to condense it into one area rather than having them in 2 different areas throughout the library. That will or may eventually have a reconfiguration of the sorting system that's in there. And there have been no major changes to the community room that we're in, to children's or to teens. And just to say, Jason was talking about some of that behind the scenes stuff that will be improved. The rooms would not be exempt from that. They're just not having any major reorganizational changes to them.
Yeah, I think just to add is, David's point earlier about the finishes, what you see, what you experience in the library. It's important that it does not feel like a hodgepodge. If we're moving things around, the new finishes. So Jamie's point earlier, when we talk about a refresh of the carpet, floor finishes, wall finishes, paint, all the things that people see need to be thought through as a holistic approach throughout the whole library, so that even though the teams area isn't getting moved to a different spot in the library, or isn't getting larger or smaller, there will be new finishes in that space. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, thank you. And I meant actually before I started in on all that, just to orient you guys too. So this big red arrow, this is where you know, generally come in through the library. We are over here right now. So the staff desk is generally in the same place that it is now. You would come through here and you'd go out this door, orchards out in this direction. So just in case anybody was having trouble orienting themselves to this plan. So a couple of ways we can do this, again, with this glass wall that's here in the center creates an acoustic and secure division of space between that quiet area and that active area. It also allows us to have a secure space for after hours or extended hours access. And then by using furniture is not part of this project just yet, but as a concept, we are able to use longer runs of furniture that allow us to get power in the floor without basically turning the floor into Swiss cheese in order to get power everywhere. So that would be a strategic move. We're looking at building those new permanent phone rooms or meeting rooms using acoustic materials. And then again, that consolidating the staff area enables us to do this in front of the library into one space together. Was that a key point?
It was, let's go to the next slide, because that's a little bit bigger. And we can still talk through, we could even zoom in and grow, if you feel like we need to. So we'll start here.
I do have some close plans that come up next, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, I do. Okay.
I think big picture, just so everybody will, if you've looked ahead in the presentation, right now we're focused on this bird's eye floor plan view, which can be challenging to orient yourself to at times if you're not used to looking at this. But coupled with these, we have 3D eye level views of what the space would start to feel like. So we'll get to that in a moment, but if especially for commission members, if there's any question about where we are, please do interrupt for that purpose, because we want to make sure you're tracking.
One of the elements of the front of the library area that I wanted to highlight is that in this instance, the sale area becomes its own bookstore. It's using the existing space for the passport office. We would look at having a glass front to it, so it really feels like its own special space that feels like an experience of, you know, going into a bookstore and being able to shop for both. This is just a close-up so you can see this key area. This is one of the sort of key moves that we're making, is making the adjustments to here where the restrooms are and taking over some of those spaces, reallocating those spaces for something else. So again, it's moving the potatoes around in the bag. The bag's not getting any bigger. We're just, you know, putting the potatoes in different spaces.
And I think just if there's, for the restrooms, we can talk about this more in discussion, the commission, but those are intended to be all gender restrooms, which again is part of the inclusivity push that we think is important for the community. That is very similar to what, I know Steve can speak to this, but that's like what's a Cupertino, for example. So that's already been something that's been established within the library district. So that's what you're seeing here on the plan.
Yeah, and one of the reasons that we looked at doing this is that we're, it requires small square footage to do all gendered restrooms. So that then gives us the space to use for Friends of the Library and to add the family restrooms. So it kind of hits a bunch of things for us. So on this slide, it's just a close up so that you can see a little bit more of where these meeting spaces are. Again, we have that cluster here, 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 and over here. This is where it gets fun. You start to get a better idea of what the space might feel like. I know we've said repeatedly, and I'll say it again, it's all conceptual. The furniture is still conceptual. That's pretty much why things are basically just shades of gray and wood tones right now, because we haven't assigned any finishes to anything. We haven't picked any furniture, but this gives you an idea of how it could feel. So I will orient you guys really quick. So, you know, right now we're in this room. This is if you come through, you're standing right about here and you're looking back towards those meeting spaces and the big glass wall. You're looking at here. So these are these meeting rooms here. And then we have a soffit above to help sort of bring that level down a little bit, but the idea is to see through it, to see back to the rest of the library and not have it feel very close.
Yeah, I mean, the whole concept here is to provide the acoustical separation. So you have an active market, what we're calling a marketplace, but an active zone. And then be able to still have visible connection or, you know, view between those two zones, the active and the more quiet zone. So this glass wall allows us to do that, provide visibility and acoustics. And the soffit allows us to do a couple of things Sammy mentioned. One is really create a design element and possible signage element. But also we can bring in all of our lighting, HVAC, anything else that we need inside of a soffit rather than cluttering the space with those things.
This is just from the other side of that space. So this is like if you have come through, you know, from the orchard entrance and you're, you know, stopping, you're going, okay, where am I going to head through the library? So you're standing here and looking back that direction. It's just a slightly different view from what we were just looking at.
And I think the importance too of this marketplace, as we're calling it, connects the orchard entry to the main entry. So that, because we recognize that there's future plans, we always want to connect to the orchard. There's also the courtyard project that's slated that if any activity happens there, future development wise, it's really nice to have a stronger connection to that.
It's kind of a thoroughfare.
Yeah, it's a more active zone for the library.
Okay, so now we're in the quiet area. We've gone through the doors right here. We're now thinking, okay, maybe we're gonna go use this meeting room. So we're standing roughly where the entrance to the staff area is, but just a little bit farther, looking out towards the marketplace and the small meeting room. And again, no paint finishes have been selected yet, no carpet, none of that. So it's really just for you guys to get an idea of the, you know, conceptual forms and shapes that we're proposing. And again, this is just from the other side. So we were just standing right over here. Now we're standing on the other side of that quiet space. Looking back at those. Okay. There is one slide for when you review on your own. There's one slide that has all 4 views in one location, if that's helpful for you to look at. And the key down here at the bottom will show you where you're standing when you're looking at that, and there are numbers or letters there, so you can make it font too. Okay, so this is design concept 2, again, conceptual. So it's very much the same. There are some modifications that make things just a little bit different, but are still really impactful. So we still have our active after hour space, but in this one, we've pushed this wall back a bit farther to create less of a linear marketplace and something that has a bit more room to it. So in this one, this option prioritizes the active space just a little bit more. It's not over prioritized, but it's a little bit bigger. Another key element that you're seeing here is that the meeting rooms have all been clustered in one spot. So they are no longer out in the center. They are back up against a wall. One thing I should note that I didn't point out in the last one, we do still have a passport office. It has moved in this one, it has moved in line with these offices here, excuse me, meeting rooms here. And we do have a passport office in the other one. I can go back to it if I need to. So key elements here still have that glass dividing wall to maintain that visibility through. It's a larger extended hours or marketplace area. Our Friends of the Library workspace and sales space are still immediately adjacent for efficiency. Up front, we still have those reconfigured all gender restrooms. and the family restrooms. Again, in this one, our meeting rooms are clustered a little bit differently. Because we have done this, we have needed to relocate some of the shelving. We have not lost shelving. We've just needed to create a walkway here so that you can access those meeting rooms. So we've pushed that shelving back to here. I will note that in both of these options, we have not reduced the shelving below how much there is now. So we are maintaining the shelving. There may need to be some relocation of things because we prioritized seating up by the windows rather than DVDs. So the DVDs will just need to move somewhere else. I agree. Again, it's shifting those potatoes around in the back. We're still maintaining the seating and views along the windows connecting to the orchard. The staff space, again, is still configured in one location. Again, that detail will come later. And there still have not been any major changes to the community room, children's, or teens. Most everything else is still the same. We've just done it a little bit differently. So I will go over all of these bubbles again.
I do think it's important. The bubbles are intended to tie us back to the design goals. So I realize that for many in the audience, at this size of a screen, you're not going to read even each of the bubbles. But I wanted to explain that the bubbles connect the design back to the building. It's really important because that allows you to see the connection between, oh yeah, we talked about wanting to do this, and this element helps support that on the plan.
Here's a plan that doesn't have all that extra stuff on it. It's a little bit bigger. So if you want to cruise this a little bit closer in your packet, you can. Same configuration we have here. And then again, just a different configuration for the meeting rooms here. Depending on how we configure the staff space, these could potentially move around a little bit. One might function as something different, but the idea here is that they're clustered all along this wall and they're in one location rather than. Here's our 3D view. We're in that same spot we were for the first one we looked at before. So you've come through, you've dropped stuff or you've checked out at the desk, you're coming back this direction and we're looking back toward the wall is back further in the space. And in this instance, we're showing a different type of glass wall that really allows us to be very visible through it. So our thinking was having the wall there, but having it not feel like it's there. So we're providing those things that were needed, the quiet space, the active space, and the security for extended hours without having something really obtrusive that you feel is very different from the way that the library is now. We're in the same area. We're still on the active side, looking back towards that wall. And now we're over in the quiet area, looking back towards that wall. So in the previous option, you were seeing those meeting rooms here. So that's the big difference. There's no meeting rooms here. You can just see right through it. And now we're on the other side of that. Looking back through that space. And then the one image that we added here that's different is being able to see those meeting rooms. So you're standing in the quiet space and you're looking back this direction towards the meeting rooms and the passport. Again, just in case it's helpful, we've got 4 images, the first 4 images. I didn't repeat the last one there, but we've got the images here if you want to look at please. Now I'm going to hand it back to Jason to get just a little bit more info for you.
Right, so one thing I would say before I get into the next steps is that the idea of being able to create a zone of library that we've been coining the marketplace allows a clear opportunity for the extended hours if that's something that wants to be pursued. It provides a framework for that because now we've established a clarity about what's active zone and what's quiet zone. And that marketplace can have collections. It can have a lot of things in it. So that's one thing I just wanted to point out that it's been working really hard at. So in terms of closing out the design part of the presentation. Big part of design is budget, right? So we need to understand how these design ideas translate into cost. And that's something that we've been working on already, even at this early stage. So one of the things that we're going to be doing at the next level is a more detailed cost analysis of all of these ideas. But what I can tell you is that based on our work with our team and our cost estimating team, we have modeled out what we believe these options to cost. Okay, now, when we talk about costs, what we're talking about in this case is the hard costs of construction. So we all know that there are many components to a project. There's designing it, there's building it, there's temporary facilities, there's moving, there's things involved. But when we look at the hard costs of construction, for what you just saw on the screen, we're talking about a project or construction cost or hard bid cost value of between 8.3 and about 9 million. So again, that includes all of the things that the changes that we're talking about, plus all of the refresh elements that we've discussed. So I wanted to put that as an end cap on the design portion of the presentation. It's always important for us to be looking at costs relative to solution and making sure we understand where we are. So for the commission's part in particular, I wanted to make that point. And so we can have plenty of discussion further about costs. It's going to be a big part of the discussion both now and in the next future step. But I believe that based on where we are currently, we were very much trying to align to what we believe a fair budget range would be, knowing the current overall budget for the project. So again, those numbers are hard costs. There's other soft costs that go in, but well, Anthony, I don't know if you want to add anything to that. I know we've worked on it together.
I think the cost estimating will go a little more in depth after this stage. So after this stage, by the time it comes back, the next time, that's when they'll have the more granular details on what exactly went into that number and explain a little bit more. Right now, it's kind of a theoretical based on all the, you're making me hungry every time you say potatoes in the sack. Every time, this example's been used a lot and I goes.
Well, I think I want to be clear that it's these costs that I'm saying are not just theoretical. They are based on analysis of where we are. And it's based on experts who do cost estimating. Estimating is something you do when you have a full design. That's what estimating is. You have to have something known, quantities, quality, and you estimate what it costs. We don't have a complete design yet. What we have is a conceptual draft. So that's called cost modeling, but we can model it knowing based on typical cost per square footage for renovation, for applying new finishes. What is that number? We know how much a new HVAC ductwork system would be. So that we can use the metrics to come up with a pretty darn good idea of where we are. So these numbers I'm giving you have a lot of confidence behind them, but they're not final. So I just wanted to state that. All right, if you could move to the next slide, sorry. In terms of next steps, again, there's a lot of text on this slide. I will quickly summarize it so we know where we are. I know it's hard to read. Bottom line is, you can see here, we're in that conceptual design phase. We've talked about that already. Maybe if you want to zoom in, Amy, that would help. Thank you. And I just wanted to reiterate that we are launching into this green text section right here. This is all really important. This is where we get to share these design concepts out to you all and get feedback. So that's where we are. That's what we're embarking on. We're going to come back with our core team, the city and staff, review all the input we're hearing from you all, and figure out, okay, based on this, how are we going to revise what? Then we revise it and get a chance to cost it together, more detail. And then after that, we come back. We come back and we say, here's the revised design options. Here are the costs. Tell us what you think. And that's what we're gonna do. In the second half, you see 1C, the bottom, that's finalizing and garner consensus. That is at those next steps in July and August timeframe. Okay. So that's just a very high level summary of next steps of where we're at. And I think with that, we want to wrap it up and get to questions from the commission and of course, discussion.
So right now, what we'll do is, do we have any clarifying questions? Not comments, but clarifying questions about the presentation. Before going to public comments, and then we'll go to public comments.
I have a question. I have a
Sorry.
question.
Oh, go
about-
ahead, sorry, hold
I
on.
was just gonna say, if members of the public would like to provide public comment, there's forms right there that you can fill out and then you just deliver it to me and then you'll be able to provide comments during that time period.
What about questions from the public?
We only take questions from the commission and then comments from the public, but there will be opportunities at the next feedback sessions on Saturday and Wednesday where the team will be available to answer specific questions from the public.
Go ahead, Carol.
I have a question about the small, what are defined here as small meeting rooms. I would like to know how big they are. They look like telephone booths in this rendering. And there are about 7 of them. And I only see one configuration that looks like you could actually have used for a meeting room. So could you give us a little bit more information about that particular part of the remodel?
Sure. Maybe we can just go to
Yeah.
that slide real quick and we can talk to that. I'll add a couple quick points and then Amy can follow up. The meeting room idea is that in this, if you're referring, are you referring to this slide in particular, Carol? Just is this the slide you were looking at on your end for the meeting rooms?
Yes.
Okay, so what you'll notice is we do have a number of small meeting rooms, that offer ability for maybe 2 to 4 people to meet. Sorry?
What are the dimensions?
They're roughly 100 square feet, and that's about the size of a standard office.
10 by 10.
Why
that
so
whole-
many?
Based on what we heard, and what we're seeing, and also coupling with the fact that you have an incredible community center with a lot of meeting spaces of varying sizes. We looked at this idea of having smaller meeting spaces as having more of those. But what you'll notice is at a conceptual level, we could remove a wall from this diagram and make a meeting room that is larger. So there's nothing to say that these meeting rooms have to be that size. But this is where we started. If that, I don't know if you can, that makes sense.
I have,
You don't, I couldn't hear what you said.
let me finish. Okay, I have many questions.
I have one follow-up though to the meeting rooms. Do you have a number of the new meeting rooms that we're getting? According to your plans, how many new meeting rooms are there? You
Yeah,
know,
we can quantify it real
Yeah.
quick off the top of my head, I don't remember, but we can look at that if that's important right now.
So in this option, we're looking at 6. And remember, these are conceptual plans, so if that number needs to increase or decrease, that's something that's absolutely on the table. And, sorry,
It's 8 for 1.
8, okay, so Anthony is saying it's 8, showing in option 1.
a point, do you understand that one of the meeting rooms is a staff meeting room today?
Yes, we
Yes.
do.
Okay,
We can
and
talk
you're
that.
opening it up to the public, or is it still gonna remain staff? I'm just asking.
It's up for debate, the closer we get
Okay.
to identifying the staff space, then yes,
I had the same
That was the
question.
question.
That was, yeah, I had the same question too. Which one is staff and which one's for public?
They currently do offer it for public use as well. So it is currently operating on as both things, so it can continue to operate as both.
And for the small meeting rooms there, is there gonna be any windows there?
There would be glass, yeah.
Okay, glass for everything or? Because I'm
Again,
wondering if it's gonna feel more spacious.
Yes,
With the
so-
window.
there's definitely options for how much glass there is. We can look at doing glass, where, sorry, I'm gonna see if I can.
I'm talking about windows outwards, like that, yeah.
Right
Oh,
here,
yeah.
there's one here, there's one here, there's one here and here. These are existing windows.
Existing
We wouldn't be
Okay.
adding any. These are existing
Okay.
windows.
That's another reason great point, Michelle. We looked at putting meeting rooms along the perimeter versus in the middle. Option one had them more centralized. This option puts them to the perimeter, which allows us to get daylight and windows.
And then more questions on I have many questions, but another thing about the meeting rooms, especially I think will impact the concept one is like, is there gonna be any frosting or anything? Because it looked very like transparent
Yes.
and there's no privacy.
That is something that we can get to down the road.
Okay.
It is an option.
And another one is where's the magazine area?
That's a level of detail that we haven't gotten to yet. We are not looking at taking away collections.
Okay.
It's just moving the potato. It's figuring out where to put that potato.
And maybe this is the same, but where's the hold area?
Same answer. It'd
Okay.
still be in that open area, and especially it wants to be in that area that can be accessed
Mhm.
during extended hours, so people can come pick up their holds when the library is not open.
And what are your thoughts around, I know that there were like a lot of glass walls, like, I know that's a clarifying question, so I'm just trying to think how to phrase it. Are there any thoughts around people bumping in because it's so clear? Because I've bumped into glass before multiple times in some offices,
Yeah,
so.
there are creative things that we can do to make it obvious that there is glass there so that that doesn't happen, but that we still get the views through, we get the borrowed light. So yes, that's
Okay.
something that, again, will come down the road.
And then what are the thoughts around the doors? Are they closed? Are they sliding doors? Or how does it work?
Right now, in this conceptual design, we're just showing these as two pairs of doors. So again, we're still in conceptual design, but conceptually, it would be something that's closed during the day so that we are maintaining active zone and quiet zone. So if they were open, then we would have less of that division of noise.
And then another question, so I have me. I know that there's a access from kids' room to the streets, right? That's the new design or no? Like there's an access or no?
No, there's nothing
Okay.
that's changed. So for the children's room, so
Okay.
you still have, like, you're coming in here and you're going into the children's room this way. We're currently in this room and you can still, right there behind you, you can
Okay.
access the children's there.
But I see the door there outside, that's going outside.
As well.
Yeah,
That's
existing.
current,
Okay,
existing.
okay. And I wanted to also understand a little bit more about the old gender room. Why is it like all shared like that instead of like boxed up, for example, if we're having old gender? Why are we only having old gender versus having female, male, and I understand that there's a request around old gender, but it's just old gender and not having any boxed up, like, so imagine if a kid, I don't know, 5, 6-year-old kid or 7, 8 goes in there. I don't know, I just, as a mom, I feel uncomfortable doing that.
Yeah. So these are fully enclosed. It's not, there's no space underneath. It's like its own little room. So it's not going to be where you can see somebody's feet next to you. So that space is private.
But I've never seen just the old gender bathroom like this. Like usually there's female and male and old gender option, or it's boxed up. Like here, you're actually sharing the entire room with the genders, like other genders. And I've been in places where there's old gender, female, male. No, I've never seen any female go into the old gender bathroom if it's like shared experience, because I even don't feel comfortable going in.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And I'm worried about my kids, if my kids were to walk in there.
We do also have these new family restrooms that are right off of the children's area. That's a single restroom. So it would be for one family or one person or one child to go into at a time.
And by by boxed up, you mean?
Oh, like a family room, like you can have like a box room that is all gender, then I get it.
Right.
But you're actually sharing the entire space.
So I think
The only thing you're sharing here is you could be standing at the sink next to somebody that is washing their hands, but you're in an enclosed locked space to use the toilet.
I think if there's a picture that the consultants have from Cupertino, because I think what you're referencing boxed up, I do think I'll let them bring up the,
So what's
So this is the example that Steve sent us from, it's Cupertino, right?
Yes.
Cupertino. So this is an all gendered restroom at a library, at the library in Cupertino. So you can see how the toilet rooms are their own spaces. There's no shared space in there. I don't know if you've ever used the restrooms at Nordstrom's at Valley Fair, but that's even in the women's room, it's like that. They're completely enclosed in your own toilet room space. So you'd only be coming out and washing your hands next to somebody else. Does that answer your question?
Yes, but I'm still feeling uncomfortable. I'm
Um,
sorry, that's just me, but
Are you done with the questions?
yes.
I just wanted to ask about the Friends workspace. It's hard to tell how the square footage compares with what they have now.
Sure. So we've been able to look at the existing Friends space, which currently is comprised of
Yeah.
it's disparate, right? You have your
Yeah, yeah.
workspace, you have your sales space, I know you also have storage.
But you're asking about the square footage of the workspace.
Correct. So if you look at what you have now, we'll start there. Okay, so what you have now, based on our understanding, if you look at the workspace and sales space, it's about 800 square feet.
I think just the work
Just the
space.
workspace. That's just the workspace.
I believe she was asking, yeah, thank you.
Yes.
So 800 square feet for the workspace is about what you have currently.
Workspace, so only.
Yeah.
Okay, and how would you compare with this?
So the options that you see here, if you look at the options that we're proposing, conceptual ideas, that would be about 400 square feet.
For the workspace, so it's
For the
half.
workspace.
So it's 50%.
Yep. And if I may.
Yeah.
If I may finish that thought. One of the things that we have looked at with the team across the board is when you look at libraries across the district. If you look at square footage of each of the libraries. You look at the Friends space that's allocated in each of those libraries. As a percentage of the whole library. What you're gonna see is you're gonna see a percentage of range, right? It's gonna vary depending on the library. But if you use that metric, if you look at that percentage and you say, okay, based on what other libraries in the district are providing for Friends. And I apply that to this library, that same metric, the 400 square feet is actually more.
But have you considered what they raise?
I'm not looking at financials right now of the Friends. You asked a question about
Yeah.
the space.
But you're using that to define it. We can't make comments now, right? We just
No.
asked questions. Okay.
But I will ask, clarifying question. I'll back to that. And that has to do with, what's now considered FOL sales, what is now the passport office. It used to be holds. And, actually the holds requirement that came up, everybody said, oh, holds were taken care of. Yes, they were. We moved them out of the passport office. What happened in the passport office is if you had holds, you couldn't get to the books. You can have more than one or two persons. It's an extremely narrow room. So I think the square footage does need to be looked at in terms of the Friends space and what's needed on the workspace. I'm sure we may get public comments around that.
But we expect that. I think.
But there, there does need to be, it does need to be considered, and I'll reserve comment on that for right now. One question I had is on your slide number 2, existing conditions findings. If you could tell me what, I was you whetted my appetite by throwing this out there, but what I really wanted to know is how safe is my library? A big part of this assessment was to see, okay, we can redo the inside, but my shell works. And that's really, will we get any indications of the structure of the library, of egress, ingress? Obviously, you're gonna look at ADA, but I'm very, from a clarification standpoint, are you going to be, giving us a full report, almost like an inspection,
Yes,
I sort of expect.
it's not an inspection, it's not what we're doing. We are doing is we're looking at the existing condition to make sure it addresses the point that you brought up. So there is a report, it's a draft report, and it will address all of those areas. It has addressed those areas.
Okay,
So for example, the structure of the library as it is safe and sound. There is no significant structural concerns. You have some accessibility issues, but they're minor. So those are all things that as part of our refresh, we would want to address. For example, accessibility.
okay, so, yeah, so because if it's not structurally safe, for whatever reason, there's not much point in doing a review. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I also wanted to kind of make sure and clarify that, are there any consideration for accessibility and also like little kids as well, just to be safe? Because I talked about the glass doors, the glass wall, but also the door, like, is the door space, for example, does it have enough space for wheelchairs to go through?
Yes.
Is it gonna be automated so that they can open it automatically? Making sure that kids don't get bumped or hurt, those kind of things.
Yes,
Okay.
all of those factors. So then one of the things that, again, at this conceptual level, we're showing 2 pairs of doors, for example, in that marketplace that goes in from the active to the quiet zone. Those could be sliding doors. Your question, they are also, no matter what we do, would have to have power actuated openers so that somebody who is in a wheelchair, or if you just have your stroller, you have the ability to push the button and the doors open.
Okay.
So that'll all be a part of, that's all been factored into the costs as well.
And when you also, can you just clarify to me about Cupertino Library bathrooms? Do they not have any gender specific bathrooms there?
Steve. help
They
with that.
do actually. So the bathrooms that you saw are part of the new construction that was done there, and they're attached to the new program rooms. But in the lobby and upstairs, they still have gender specific.
See, this is what sorry, I'm not supposed to call it.
But
Can I? So this is what I mean is like, they have gender specific bathroom, and then this all gender thing is an optional thing that people can use.
Sure.
I think it's very concerning to me that there is an all gender bathroom that's all shared across everybody. And there is no gender specific bathrooms. When I say boxed up, if it was like a family bathroom, like all gender, like, one box.
Like a single use. like
Single
one-
use, all gender, then and then there's one, then that's fine. But I don't think I just feel very uncomfortable and uneasy from my experience. And also from seeing in other places, right? Like, I've never seen that kind of all gender bathroom with no option to go to gender specific bathroom. And I know you guys told me that there's 2 family bathrooms, but that's not a lot. I mean, if all the adults start going to the family bathroom, then the family can't use it. So, that's my huge concern. Just wanted to throw it out there.
sure. Any other, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I'm just saying, thank you for sharing your concern.
Yeah.
Any other clarifying questions?
I have comments, but no.
Yeah. I have one question where, I heard 2 things, actually. I heard about that we don't lose any stacks. Why not? I mean, it was a surprise to me that we needed to keep them. It was sort of, I thought in our feedback that some kind of technical innovation, whatever it would be, and I'll reserve that for comment. But,
Here, can
yeah.
you repeat what I wasn't able to hear you.
oh, the stacks. So we have the same number of stacks. Actually, that's a clarifying question. We have the same number of stacks. They're just as high. There's no ADA issue on that. None. You can be that high. Okay.
Height is not an issue. They're typically our biggest concern is width of aisles between the stacks.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Is that,
Thank you.
and, last question, where are the checkout machines? are you considering other alternatives to checking out or maybe?
Yeah, we actually are working on an app that would check out, library materials and have some self-checks available. Which is-
It would be part of the marketplace. It would be something that's encompassed in the
It's a
marketplace.
similar spot to where it's at.
And you brought up the marketplace. I kept thinking, have you considered any area in the library that is flexible? And by flexible, I mean things where you could put in, a maker fair or a sale, right? And because right now we do STEM, when the library does STEM events, they go out to the Hillview field to do it. So I don't know if did you consider a flex area or is that the marketplace?
Okay. What's the, can I answer? So one of the things that this library you have those open spaces. You have this space that is the marketplace. You have this open space that is in the quiet area. The sort of make or break a little bit of this is going to be the furniture. The furniture is going to play a really big role in the space for this library, and how flexible that space is may depend on the furniture and how flexible it is. Depends on staff being able to, how easily can staff move that stuff when they only have X number of people available to do it? Can they move it without breaking their back and needing 10 people to do it? Is it something that's plugged in? Because we're talking about, you want things to be powered. If it's plugged in, it's powered, but it may not be as easy to move it and have it create a more flexible space. So it's finding the right balance of how that can happen. And you may say, okay, option one feels like, okay, maybe that's a little bit less flexible for event space. Maybe option two is the one we like to have it be a lot more flexible for event space. So that's why we're showing you these two options with this open area marketplace. So a lot of it might come down to the furniture and how flexible the furniture is.
Thank you. Oh,
You can-
no, I'm done.
For the Friends of the Library, you told us that there's gonna be a bookstore-like room. Is it gonna consist of all the books, like meaning like kids' books and adult books in one room, or is it going to get separated?
We haven't gotten to that level of information yet, but I think that the goal is to keep the Friends, all of their stuff in one area so that they're not scattered all over the library like they are now. So I think the goal would be to have it in the same general vicinity.
And I know it wasn't in the priority, but there are some like art and things like that gets, and we have pictures on the wall. Is there any space for that, or there's no space with this?
We're not to that level yet. Right now, we're really talking about these big design moves, these big clusters of spaces, whether it's this kind of meeting room cluster or this, whether it's, the wall is here or the wall is here. So we're making those big moves right now, and that's what we want to get the feedback on. The granularity of where we're going to put art, something that we'll get to, but we know that that's something that needs to be accommodated. So
Oh,
we're just
okay.
not there yet.
Okay, I'm just wondering, I understand that we're working on the big picture, but I'm wondering like if these designs will prohibit for us from doing that kind of thing.
Absolutely not. And we definitely heard in our outreach sessions that having art and having spaces for community art is important. So we do have that information kind of logged in our design plans.
Good. Good. So shall we move, or any other clarifying comments or
Comments or question?
now it's time for public comments? If not.
Yes, at the end.
We'll come back and comment.
Okay.
So how many, Anthony, how many folks?
We have 7 speaker cards.
3 minutes each. Please be respectful of your time or of everyone's time if you can. I mean, if you need to finish a thought, that's fine, but I don't want to be harsh. And cut you off.
The first speaker is Melissa Smith.
I just wanted to, second,
Stand up if you.
sorry. What did you say?
You can stand up and.
Okay. I just wanted to second the commissioner, concern about, the all gender bathrooms. As a mother of young children, I would not feel comfortable with that enclosed space. And I really think that that needs to be revisited. And I believe that if you were to poll the community, and especially mothers of young children, they would, I'm guessing, agree with us. So I strongly recommend that the commission revisit that, as it's very important for the safety of our children. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brittany Stevens.
Sure, is there a place you'd like me, I mean, I can speak from here if I'm picked up by everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm here tonight as a concerned community member and a strong supporter of our public library. I volunteer in the library weekly. I appreciate the effort to refresh the existing library, but frankly, I'm just deeply concerned that these are proposed surface level updates. And they represent really what I consider a halfway effort toward addressing a much larger community need. What Los Altos truly deserves is a full-scale remodeling, a modern, expanded library that meets the needs of our growing dynamic population. The current facility, I think we all can agree, it's small, it's outdated. It's no longer able to support the level of service and engagement our residents expect. A superficial refresh does not solve the core issues of space and function. I'm especially concerned that the proposed designs do not provide adequate, dedicated facilities for the Friends of the Library. Hearing the numbers tonight is shocking. A group that plays a vital role in supporting programming, fundraising, and outreach. Without proper space, their ability to serve and sustain the library is going to be severely compromised. Most importantly, this community has the will and the capacity to do better. The potential for robust community fundraising and public-private partnerships remains strong. A larger, frankly, two-story library is not only feasible, it's the right investment. I don't want us to miss this opportunity to build something that's truly worthy of Los Altos. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Robert Robson.
Robert. At the very beginning, you talked about moving the FL space. That's how it was summarized in those 4 words. I don't see how going from X, whatever, 800 square feet to 400 square feet even comes close to moving space. You think they have a minimum space. Yeah. I'm thinking, some of my time again.
Suzanne Epstein.
Yeah. Okay, I'll take his other time. So I totally support what we just heard from Brittany. This is the wrong thing to do right now. This is a time, if we're going $9 million really, and what can we get from that? It looks like we get 3 meeting rooms from what we currently have. Everything else is just moved around. We've got a lot less than what we currently have, which is a sad to see. In the late 1980s, we had a dynamic librarian who came to the Library Commission and said, we need a larger library. And she's won her force of continuing to say that to the city council and to the commission is what got this library here. We had a 14,000 square foot library. The Library Commission went to NCLA, which is a tax district, and asked them to put the library expansion on that, on the next year's election. That's how we got expand the library from 14,000 square feet to 28,000 square feet. That was 1990. That's the last we've had as an improvement to this library. We need a larger library. In 2004, we actually had conceptual design drawings just like this to expand the library about 4,000 square feet based on the $4 million that we got from the Whipple Fund and from another woman, a friend of Virginia Whipple, who also died and left us money in her will. The city asked us to hold off. we looked at the design drawings of the 4,000 square feet, but decided we should really do a full needs assessment, which is why we have our 2008 needs assessment, cost $40,000, which is a lot of money at that time. We had a needs assessment which showed that we need 12,000 square feet more to serve this community. We then went into the whole general plan for the civic center as to where everything was going to be, the new library, the new community center, city hall, the orchard, everything with the little pieces of paper that we can move around. But for 2 years of planning and meeting with the community and the city council, they couldn't agree on which of the drawing designs. And then city council changed and that was dropped. But the plan was do the community center first and then the new library second. Okay, this has been going on for over 20 years of trying to get the new library, the expanded library. The community needs an expanded library. And this proves it. We've just got proof with these 2 drawings that you've just seen. What happened to try to add anything in, you had to draw down something else, such as the Friends. There's no place for an ongoing sale. The ongoing sale brings in over $200,000 a year. That helps this library, supports all the programs that are going on in this library. And you're just throwing that out with this drawing. There's no way that there's a Friends of the Library store inside a closed room. So comments on this, I'm now taking the rest of his time.
Yeah. Suzanne, can you close it up or?
Yeah, I'm adding.
Okay.
The orchard room, I thought we'd wanted to expand this orchard room. It's inadequate for a number of our meetings. We have to turn people away. There's been no address to that. There was talk about expanding or improving the use of the lobby. We haven't improved the use of the lobby. There's still, this is the lobby. When we talk about the lobby, this is it right here. And it's still here on your drawings as that space. It's not any better use of that space. The children's room currently has expanded into the adult area of the library, but you're showing the children's room as its original area instead of a larger area. It needs more space right now. Why would it need less space in the future? 2 separate bathrooms, I think, is an absolute need. There's 2 things that happen in this bathroom. There's a lot of nannies with little kids who eat at this cafe after the morning time, and you'll go into the women's bathroom and change their babies. So you need a changing table area. We have homeless people in this library, just like we do in every library. They also, this is where their families brush their teeth and clean up. That's, I just think you have to think of our whole community. The Friends space is unworkable. You can't have less working area. There's no need for the Friends space to be right next to where the sales is. We talked about needing an outside entrance for the Friends space. There's no maker space in this. Why spend the $9 million? Why don't we work as a community to get a better library? The one that this community needs.
Thank you.
I've been with them, I have been with them since 2007 as an active volunteer. And cutting half of our space out of the area we have now, going from 726 to less than 400 is unacceptable. I would submit to ABA to have some of your people come to the Friends Corner and watch our operation in practice. Not just see the space, but come and see us in action and see what space we do need. Long and thin does not work for our operations as much as a squarish kind of situation. I like that you had in your two of your plans that you clustered as well as separated spaces, meeting spaces. Clustering makes much more sense. It allows less disruption to the library in general. Has more quiet space, separates the quiet from the noisy space. Couple of questions. Where does the teen room go to? Where do the teens go to after school? Where is a place for them to gather? Also, I noticed that your gender neutral, or all gender, whatever you call it, bathroom, on your prints has no door. Is that by design, or is that just something that you forgot? To Suzanne's point, an ongoing bookstore behind a glass, even if it's a glass wall, is going to be forgotten, not seen, not used. She generates what, $4,000 a month?
Oh, way more.
Oh, more.
Way more.
Of just generating from ongoing. And all those books come from the sorting area back in the Friends Corner. Again, I submit the ABA to come see us in action and see things kind of as they work. I would also suggest, this is just a suggestion, to drop the idea about marketplace. A library is not a marketplace. It's a place for the community to gather. It's a place for us to gain knowledge. It's a place for us to come together. It's not a place that we market things. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, McMillan?
McMillan, I'm here longer than. But, and I certainly wasn't smart last time. Last time I said, please don't use the term, the 4 words of starting with improve, but expand. Because just previous to that meeting, the librarian cut out our ability to have special sales in what you're now calling the marketplace area. The way that the current library works. That's good for maybe 25, 30% of the money ongoing buys each year to the library. And putting it behind glass in a fishbowl, no one's going to go take a swim. But the parents come in there, the kids stop them to look at books. They meander around, put some books on the floor. And it's a meeting place, not a marketplace. And if you make it a closet, nobody's going to go in it, glass or not. I think one thing you should focus on is do no harm. What this design is doing is taking what we call the corner, which is the part where we do all the real work, and got it out of the way. We got a nice door. It gets us in and out with all of our clunky, ugly, hard to manage boxes, back and forth, back and forth. Nobody sees that part of it. Okay. This design puts all of that front and center right in the lobby, where we run over all the nannies and the kids and the people coming in trying to get their free drinks because nobody pays for them anyhow. All that stuff goes on, but you're just upsetting that whole process. And you're just going to see these big guys with hand trucks, 5 high sometimes, if it's me, 5 high boxes, right? 200 pounds worth of stuff. And that's going to go in and out the damn door. That's stupid. Makes absolutely no sense. And to cut it down from by 50% or 100%, 50%, based on perhaps some analysis of other libraries, look at our revenue. Look at our revenue. Look at Saratoga. They got more shelf space than we could ever ask for, but they never turn over their books, so they don't sell anything. Okay, we turn books every 4 weeks.
everything turns over. That's the right way to do retail sales. That's what we're doing. So don't put us in a closet and let us get the books. Can't get the books through that crazy little L-shaped thing that you. And if you can't do that, just do no harm. Don't do anything. Don't spend the money. Stop. We'll make do with what we've got.
Come visit us.
Carrie Azalea?
Sorry, yes.
Those are.
I was concerned about the data that you collected. When you talk about the community, that you reached out to the community. How did you do it? Did you have surveys? Was it just the people who visited on those 2 days? Out of the 32,000 approximate residents in Los Altos, how many did you actually canvass? And what percentage of them, for example, the space, the market space or whatever, how many people in Los Altos really wanted the library after 9 o'clock at night? So it would help to see how many residents were, or patrons were contacted, how they were contacted, and what percentage of them wanted all the little bubbles that were on the report.
Thank you, and thank you for your written comment.
Yes.
Alan? The last one.
No, that's Steve. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I agree with everything that all the people have said. Probably you're not surprised by that. But I would like to make a comment about the analysis. Long time ago, I got a degree in industrial engineering. And so I work in the Friends of the Library, but when I come in here, I walk around the library and I measure the performance of all the sections of the library. How many people are sitting at the chairs? How many people are at the desk? How many people are using computers and so forth? I'd be interested to know if you did that type of analysis. Because what's shocking to me is you're going to keep the same number of stacks.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely inconceivable that anybody who did any type of analysis of how this library was used would come to the conclusion that the same number of stacks are necessary. Because when you walk in this library, no one is in the stacks. Okay? The real compression in this library is the space available for people to work. All the chairs are full on a Saturday afternoon, or a Sunday afternoon, all the chairs are full. There's no place to sit. So I just can't understand how you could think that you're doing a proper analysis and come back and say that we need the same number of stacks. Lastly, I'll say spending $9 million to move things around is just stupid. Okay, you need a new library. We should save the money for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is that it for public comment? Thank you very much, of the ones who spoke up. Thank you. And the ones here. So at this point, I guess it's up to us commissioners to,
Well,
Christine.
it's mostly been said. I just wanted to put the numbers in perspective with about, Duncan was talking about the flow. Now go in and out through the lobby with this floor plan. With the currently Friends boxes up about over 1,000 boxes for each quarterly sale, which then go out through the lobby and all the way around to the back to where the History Museum is, where the sheds are. We actually box up, we have a lot more boxes coming in because donations, a lot of books unfortunately get to be recycled. So that's a lot of traffic coming in and out through the lobby. Of course, we wouldn't be able to maintain the same volume with the reduced square footage. We probably had to hire half of our volunteers, but fine. Okay, that's all I have to say.
Carol?
Well, I agree with you with your concerns about the viability of the building. It's an old structure. The wiring is all, it's old in every sense of the word. It's been through earthquakes and survived, but who knows about the next one. So I think that's a very real concern as we move forward, because if the building is too expensive to bring up to code, we would have to take that into consideration.
I also have another clarifying question and I have comments. I forgot to ask in the last clarifying question that from the public comment, just reminded me. What is the actual demographic of the library versus the respondent? I wanted to compare that ratio.
I don't believe that the library would track demographics of individuals who there's a ped counter that counts pedestrians coming in and out, but it doesn't break down based upon any demographic factors.
And I saw on the demographic, there was like 11-year-old and under. Are they like actually kids attending or is it the parents of the kids attending?
Sorry, I brought some donuts to the feedback sessions, but
Okay.
we had opened the door for the children's area, so we asked the parents before we gave kids any sugary treats, but there was something to try to bring them into the room.
We did encourage them to come in and give us feedback. We went out and said, hey, you guys have a few minutes.
Okay.
So we did try to get as many families as we could.
Okay. So I think for me, couple of comments with friends, I agree that like having all that boxes and coming through that front door, it just sounds like actually a hazard, for many of us. And I think the space needs to be thought about. I think, I've seen the room, the friend's room in operation, and I do agree with them that reducing to half, is not going to work. I agree with that because I've seen it. But you guys know better than I do, but so that's one. And I think that when you talk about the percentage of, the library versus the friend's room, I think other libraries are typically bigger than our library. So, in square footage, if you look at the percentage, it's always we're gonna be worse off, is my opinion, right? Like, so if you look at Cupertino, they have a bigger library. So if you say percentage is like, I don't know, what was the percentage, 10% or 5% or 2% or whatever it is, it's gonna be in absolute value bigger. So we're gonna lose out. Right? So that's just my opinion. Like I think it's not fair to look at it that way. We should look at the absolute value. And then sales, and there's a lot of factors that, a lot of matrix that you have to look into to actually make that judgment. And one of the public comments, so the reason why I asked about the book room is I actually agree with the public comment that like my kids actually buy stuff from the friends the friends books like on the portal, right? They would not go into the bookstore like little corner. They always like try to go to the kids' room, and then on the way they're like, oh, actually I want this book, I want to buy it, So I think that we need to have that flow of thinking of where everybody's going, because if you tuck it inside, I don't know if they're going to go in because they're coming into the library for different reason, right? They're coming into the library to hang out or do work on the desk or borrow books. They're not coming in to buy books. Their motivation is not to buy books. And the buying book part is only happening because you're actually seeing it in your eyes when you're walking around. So I think that piece needs to be thought out a little bit more. And then I think the safety part is very important to me. So I think I addressed a couple of safety parts. So one is the toilets. I think absolutely we need, I just disagree with that gender bathroom that you showed me. We need to have gender separated bathroom. And I think the all gender bathroom only works if you already have gender specific bathrooms, which you guys confirmed to me that Cupertino has that, right? So I just don't feel comfortable, and I think it's unsafe for kids, and I don't feel safe either. I don't know. I just feel like it's wrong. That's how I feel. I just feel uncomfortable as a woman. And another part that we talked about was the wall, making sure that it's safe, nobody's bumping in because it's too transparent. Another thing about the wall in the middle of the corridor, the glass wall, I know it's a glass and it's going to be transparent, but I'm just wondering if it's going to make the library look smaller. Because like, for example, there was one concept that had meeting rooms in the middle, right? In the middle. I think that's going to make the library looks smaller to me because the whole idea is like making the library more spacious. We want the library to look spacious, but I feel like that wall might actually, I understand that quiet space needs to be thought about, blah, 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 but I'm just a little concerned about that concept of like, maybe it might look smaller by adding that portal itself. And then what else? Did I cover everything? I think I covered what I needed to say, but let me just see. Anything else?
Oh, I've got plenty. We should take a break before I start, Anthony. No, first off, thank you very much for you put, you came, you presented. It's not what everybody wanted to hear, but it got the design out there and brought up a lot of questions. Like Michelle, I think a square footage 1-to-1 on the Friends space based on percentage of library footage is the wrong way to look at it. Truth be told, I'm one of the guys who hauls books out of the corner to the sheds. And there is a safety issue. But it also exemplifies what the Friends do, which is a lot more than, no offense to anybody, but it's a lot more than sales. It's a group that's been around since 1957. The amount of books recycled would make any green program, would put any green program to shame. We recycle books, so I think.
I think you mean recycle in terms of getting them back, yeah.
Yeah, getting them.
Because we do recycle as well.
Well, we do recycle books, but I'm talking about people, getting back in circulation and being used again. And not only that, we also dispose a lot of the county's excess books that get taken off the shelves. So it's not just citizens who come in, and the citizens who come in from all over Santa Clara County. We're known, the Friends are known as a great project. So anyway, other comments on our process map. I don't want to throw another thing your way, but there is another, the city of Los Altos Hills, I'm sure would appreciate to hear from you at the right spot. And Anthony, it's something, and you guys should definitely look into. The existing conditions, I think, is very key, because if the building's not stable, then why remodel? I think the idea of a flex space, I don't know how you architect that. Okay, but like the marketplace, I don't so mind the term, but if it's flexible and we could put different programs up on a weekly basis or whatever, some timing basis, whether, like I said before, a sale, a maker fair, anything that would highlight it, that kind of space would be really good. I don't think back to I appreciate the fact that you put in the Friends shop, but I'll tell you, nobody can browse in that space. It'll be a clog, and I say that based on my experience in the holds. If you had a bad back, you could not reach down and get your book in the old thing. I know it's hard for me. I mean, I can sit here and say, where's the innovation? But you're architecting something. But it would be nice to see something innovative. And maybe it's more a county thing. And make Los Altos your center of innovation on technology. If there's something, and I don't know what it is, it's just a comment. But make that sort of a standard. I love the design. Either the idea of you know how I feel about Open Plus and how important it is as a service to the community. But above all, be flexible. For instance, I was happy to hear, I mean, I'm assuming you're not gonna go into the walls and rip out all the electrical and change everything. I'm assuming from what you were saying, Amy, about using furniture as a hub, that you would be looking at things like that and not, going into the slab, which is great. Very well considered, and I think it's what's needed. The computing assets need to be looked at. We have computers that just sit there. And we need to do something about that. You have laptops, you have a laptop kiosk, and I've never seen anybody take a laptop out of that kiosk. And even if they did take a laptop out of that kiosk, it's Windows and it's not really that well populated. The batteries were a good change, but things like that, allowance for tech, I don't know how you build that in. Going into the proposals, I appreciate the fact that you went through and, looked at T1 and P, and I'll actually send you some written comments. But when you look at, I want to be clear about the Friends space. There's in T2, you say improve Friends sales space. And instead, you say FOL desires more space for work area. I believe FOL desires we maintain the space and not, it'd be great to get more, but I think most of us are realists. But on the sales side, I gotta tell you, one thing that drew me to volunteer for Friends of the Library was that they are retail geniuses. Suzanne, I bow to you, in that they know how to do a sale. It's amazing. And it's a community thing, but I hope that you and the library, the staff, we can come together and make something happen that works on that regard. But I don't think that the current as proposed, I'm not sure that it'll work just because of space. And I just think there's something can be done. Noise. I want to say something about noise. I'm only saying something about noise because my wife always complains about it. And I said, noise is great. You know what? Hearing the children rushing and in and out, is a cool thing. And yeah, it's a library, but you don't have shushers. Some do. I don't. But, and you plug in if you don't want to hear the noise. So to me, the spaces for offices and making sure those are noiseless is great. But the overall noise and ambiance of the library, I'm not down on noise that much. And I don't know that we should really try to get rid of it, i.e. make sure that, everything stays in the children's zone and you don't hear it. Now, other people may have other opinions, but that's fine. We were trying to it's great that the children's stuff is happening. It would be great to have an opening between the children's space and the orchard room, or even some kind of expansion of the orchard room. Be it, even though it's opening up a wall, perhaps, but if it was possible to make an atrium, or not an atrium, but, allow you to be outside. Whether these windows are flexible or can open and shut, so you can get some of that good San Antonio noise in here. But, you might have events that require that, but you did address that, which is okay. And, again, a big thanks for being here. And that concludes my comments.
I also wanted to say I appreciate you coming here and presenting to us as well. And I think I want to add one more thing, is maybe to your point. It's a good point that at least with Friends space, it should be a status quo, right? Like it should be like minimum, keep the space that we have. I think is what we should say. Rather than being ambitious, or I think that's the goal, like at least keep the space that we have today. And maybe we just don't move the space because we do need the back exit. So we just say, hey, friends, space, please don't move anything there. No, don't touch.
It would be better if it could be quiet.
Yeah.
I'll just make a note that I think the consultants have heard the feedback. We'll look to identify potential solutions in response to what they've heard, so I don't want to necessarily start designing here. I'll defer to giving the feedback, and I did want to make one final plug that Saturday morning, we will be here in the main library area from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Please tell people. And then next Wednesday from 3 to 5 p.m., the consultants and myself will be here. So this isn't the only time. There are other opportunities to actually engage with us directly.
Is there any chance that, like, I think I like the public idea of like your team, not only hearing from the public, but also observing what's going on during like a day hours, or like take one weekend and like one during the day or something, during weekdays or something, so that you can see the flow of what's happening.
We will connect with the consultants on making sure that they understand what exactly all the operations are. We've heard that comment. They should visit us.
But I don't want to lose Christine's comment though, about if you do keep it, one of the issues of it in back is noise. And if you were to keep it status, it would need to be dealt with and made noiseless. That's one noise that I don't like.
Which noise are we talking about?
In the back.
Corner is not completely sealed off from the rest.
Which one?
The corner where the rest was.
Oh, yes.
Any other comments, commissioners?
I think we're good.
We're good?
Thank you.
Well, with that, I think that's it, right, Anthony?
Yes.
And with this, I adjourn. We're done.